Thank you. All right, good evening and welcome everyone. This is the regular City Council meeting for March 1st for Minnetrista. And a first order of business is to say Pledge of Allegiance. Allie, could you do that for us this evening?
No problem. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So with that, I will do a roll call and I will start with council members. John Chumperland.
Here.
Pam Mortensen.
Here.
Kathleen Muffkin.
Here.
Ann McGregor.
Here.
And I'm Lisa Whalen, the mayor. I'm also here. Our administrator, Mike Baroni.
I am here.
Public Works Superintendent, Gary Peters. Is Gary? Okay, we'll get back to him. Chief of Police, Paul Falls.
I am here.
All right.
I am.
Thank you. Community Development Director, David Abel.
I am here.
Thank you. Finance Director, Brian Grimm.
I'm here.
Director of Administration, Ali Paulfus.
I'm here.
City Clerk, Chris Lindquist.
I am here.
And our engineer, Allison Falsky with WSB.
I'm here.
And our attorney with Kennedy and Graven, Ron Beatty.
Here.
And Gary, are you able to join us? For some reason or other, we can't hear Gary. But he is on the phone, so we'll assume he will have to get his phone or something working, but because I do know he has a couple of items here on the agenda. So with that, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. The only change that we'll be making is under item 6B, rather than approve the purchase of the pumps for the lift station 12, we'll simply have a discussion of the pumps for lift station 12. So that's the only change that I have. Staff or council, any other changes? Okay, with that then, is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
This is Kathleen. So moved.
Thank you, Kathleen.
I'll second it.
All right, and Pam seconded that. So a motion has been made by Councilmember Refkin and seconded by Councilmember Mortensen. All those in favor will signify with aye. I vote aye. Lisa Whalen. Kathleen?
Aye.
Pam?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye. And
John?
Aye.
All right, thank you. So next we'll move on to our special presentations. Mr. Baroni or Mr. Grimm, which one?
That will be Mr. Grimm.
All right. Brian, you're up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. So the first item on the agenda is a annual one and always a good one for the Finance Department and the city at whole. And it's our certificate of achievement in financial reporting. And this is for our 2019 annual financial audit. And it's a little later, the recognition we got than usual. I think the GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association, we had received some correspondence. They were a little behind in getting out their award notification and documents. So that's why you're seeing this in March of 2021, even though this was on our 2019 audit. It usually would be hopefully December or January when we usually would see this. For background, so this is our, I believe, 16th year the city has received this award. It goes back to 2004. And we do plan on submitting our 2020 financial report. Our audit actually is beginning next week with a combination of some remote and on-site auditing from our auditing firm. So before I forget, I'd like to express thanks to Angie Bowl and Don Muchko in the finance department. They both contributed a lot to getting in there, everything ready for the audit in 2019, just like they do, and I do my part every year. So without their help, as well as, there's other cross departments that help with different things from getting ready for the audit, we wouldn't be able to obtain this award. Otherwise, yeah, then that was on page 3. The other pages in the packet are the press release and the letter notifying us of the award. On page 7, I'll just mention quickly that we were proficient in all areas. You can see that little chart there that shows all the different sections, 101 through 119, I guess, grading categories that they cover. And then the certificate of achievements in there, as well as the last few pages are just the, as the GFOA reviewers go through, they have some little comments that they've noted, and that we incorporate then on the next year's audit when we apply for the award, as well as there's some new pronouncements that they have coming out, that new GASBs that are coming forward, that just for the city and the council to be aware of. So I think that's about it in a nutshell. If anyone has any questions from council, I'd be happy to take those. Otherwise, I guess we sort of officially, or this is just our way to so everyone knows we got the award again this year. So
Thank you, and congratulations to you and Dawn and Angie and for their help. It's greatly appreciated. Council, do you have any questions?
This is Ann.
No.
Hi, Brian. Congratulations. And I asked Brian a whole ton of questions and sent him an email today, and he did a beautiful job in answering my questions.
Great, thank you.
I was just
Okay.
going to say thank you and congratulations also.
oh yeah, thank you for both of you. And yeah, there's it's always nice to get a little bit of kudos in it. And I think some of the questions that and our Councilmember McGregor asked were good questions as far as why we do it and what benefit we get. And I think there is benefits to our residents, to our people that read our financial reports, our credit rating agency, our bondholders and stuff. And I think there's just a whole, I don't know, plethora is the right term, but there's a lot of benefits for the city receiving this award. So.
Thank you. And of course, a little more transparency as well.
Yep,
So,
correct. Yep.
thank you. And again, congratulations. So Brian, you're actually up next as well with our financial update for fourth quarter of last year, 2020.
Correct, yes, Madam Mayor and Council. So this is on starts on page 13 of the packet. I think I briefly just mentioned in the other item that are with our audits next week. Pretty much this is our preliminary numbers adjusted for all year-end, accruals, accounts payables, accounts receivables, all those type of items. And that's why we usually wait to show this report to council, a little later than some of the other quarterly reports. It's just to make sure we have all those year-end reports from the county, et cetera, to do all our balancing. So I think at the last meeting in December, I guess the only meeting in December, I think we had given the council the heads up that obviously with the CARES dollars, that we were going to have a dollars to the bottom line in the general fund. I mean, that's the biggest factor. I guess the second biggest factor was our building permit revenue. Once again, was very strong in 2020. I think that's been a few years in a row now where our building permit activity has been, I guess, our new homes in general has been really, strong, for lack of a better term. Or, if you go to page 14 in the packet, you can see what I've done is tried to group it by category there. So obviously attached after this is all the detail of the general fund revenues, but you can see as it is just stated, the intergovernmental, which is basically both years, that's just like our police aid and some other dollars we get from the state, but that included our federal CARES money this year. And you can see that's why the variance there was about that 570-some thousand. And then our building permits and licenses was about 219,000 better than what we projected, just based on very high level activity there. As far as the expenditures, most things came in right about as we projected. I think as you saw in the memo, that we spent about 98% of our general fund budget. So we came in slightly less than what we budgeted. And then when you factor in all those items, we had budgeted for about a spend down of 163,000, and we actually ended up putting about 676,000 to our bottom line in the general fund. I don't know, and that's pretty much the main highlights. Otherwise, the attached detail is on the next, several pages, as well as then on page 25, it's the cash and investments report, which just shows all of those in all funds, not just the general fund. So you can see a year-end status update there with some notes there on page 26. So probably just open it up if the council has any questions. Otherwise, I think we're sitting pretty well financially with our preliminary numbers that we'll have audited next week.
So Brian, can you tell us then at the end of 2020, what was our general fund balance percentage then?
Let's see, I think it was right around 65, 66%, I want to say, as far as where we're at.
Okay, because I know
Yep.
last year we talked about it and we said we'll have to have a discussion in terms of what we want to be using that money for, because that's a bit high. I mean, that's quite high. 65% is way above our fund balance policy. So the council will have to determine when we would like to have that discussion and maybe what we should be using at least some of those funds for. That was my primary question. One to David, because our building permits came in really high, do you happen to know how many new home building permits did we issue last year?
Yeah, it's right around 150. I don't have the exact number. I have back in the office, but it's right around 150.
Okay, is that our all-time high?
No.
Okay.
In the early 2000s, we hit the high 170s, just about 180.
Okay. All right, but still, it's quite high. All right, great. Thank you. Council, any other questions or comments? I'll start with Pam.
You asked a question that I was going to ask about the general fund balance and the relief funds. Where are we going to be putting effort in to use that money? And thank you for asking about the home permits. 150 homes, that was great. I think we planned 100, and we do that on purpose because we don't want to, get caught being under a projection. But yeah, 150 homes, that was good.
Okay, and Mr. Chumberlain.
Yes, thank you. Brian, just 3 line questions and are just for my informing me. On page 15, under the revenues, second line from the bottom, court fines. Is the reduction in the fines COVID related?
Yes, Councilmember Shumperlin, and I believe we touched on this at that December meeting when we were talking of that other budget stuff. And quick update, I think it was just the way there was a little difference, I think, the way, and Chief Falls could chime into how we patrolled in 2020 probably was just some, less tickets given, obviously, which obviously in turn would be less revenue. So whether that, will continue down, I assume that will bounce back some in 2021 and beyond. But I think some of that had to do with the factors that was happening in 2020.
Brian,
Madam Mayor
and
and
you're
Council,
breaking up.
that absolutely was COVID related. Self-initiated activity came almost to a standstill for a period of months. So absolutely, that's reflected in that diminished fines there. So we're hoping that will certainly come back up.
Thanks. That seemed to make sense to me. At least it's what clicked in my mind, that it'd be a relationship. Thank you. Page 16, Brian, the interest on investments, considerably under, but I didn't think our interest rates had changed. So what was the effect there?
I mean, the interest rates did, we're at least a little better. I mean, obviously when we do this budget, we would have been, putting this together in pretty much summer to fall through winter of 2019. So I think rates from 2019 to 2020 definitely did drop some. I know they weren't really high even before that, but they've gone down, as well as there's some of that number also has market value implications to it. It's not just interest. So I think it's a combination of the adjustment to market value as well as lower interest rates had us perform under budget there.
Okay, thank you. And one more, under expenditures, page 24. Under miscellaneous, is the 40,000 I'm seeing there the two food shelf grants that we gave?
Correct. That would be the two grants that were approved with some of the CARES money to West Tonka Food Shelf and the Community Action Network. Correct, for 20,000 each for the 40,000 total.
Good. And then just as a general question, you got miscellaneous under miscellaneous. What would typically get ear tagged in the miscellaneous if there is any common theme?
That would be more, I mean, the 15,000 budgeted there is more for any small unbudgeted items, that pretty much come up that I'm trying to think of an example. I think in one year we ended up using it like we did a community survey, like we didn't have it in the original budget, and then we used the money there to do something like that. But that's usually what that miscellaneous is. If there's something that comes up during the year that the council wants to do that really doesn't fit under like, police or public works or any of those other departments.
Sure. If you had a common recurring theme, you would probably identify a line item within the department or departments that it related to, correct?
Correct, yeah. That 15,000 basically you could almost look at as like a contingency item. Like if there's something that is really important that the council, it doesn't really fall under a recurring theme or something, but they want to then do, that's an area that can tap into to do that.
Okay. Thank you, and also congratulations on the award, and don't let this get old.
It's always fun winning awards. I know I even, whether it's as an adult or, as the kids in school or sports, it's always fun to win awards.
All right.
Congratulations.
Anne, any questions or comments?
No, I would say that your suggestion about talking about if we're going to have extra funds, about talking about where to deploy them as soon as possible would be great.
Okay. All right. And Kathleen?
Nope, no questions. Congratulations, Brian, on the award, and I agree with Anne and you, Lisa, about discussing the funds.
All right, great. All right, so that concludes our special presentation. So we'll move on to our persons to be heard. Mr. Baroni, did you receive any emails that you need to read?
Mayor, I did not.
All right, and do we have anybody?
I don't I see one caller that's not identified, but
Okay, I don't think we have anybody for persons to be heard. So we'll move on to our consent agenda items. Are there any that need to be removed? Otherwise, our consent agenda items consist of approving our work session meeting minutes from February 16th, 2020, approve our city council regular meeting minutes from February 16th, 2020, approve our claims, and D is approve a quote and award contract to purchase picnic tables, trash receptacles, park bench, and bicycle rack for Lyle Park.
and Mayor, those years should, I think he said 2020 should be 2021.
I'm sorry. I apologize. 21. So February 16th, 2021
Correct.
for both the minutes. So with that, is there a motion to approve consent agenda items A, B, C, and D?
This is John, so moved.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jumperlin. Is there a second?
This is Kathleen, I'll second.
All right, so Ms. Refkin made that second. Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor will signify with aye. I vote aye. Ms. McGregor?
Aye.
Ms. Refkin?
Aye.
Mr. Chamberlain,
Aye.
Ms. Martenson.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. So we will now move on to our business items. Our first business item is approved quotes and authorize the purchase of the city IT devices. Mr. Baroni, I think that's you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. So before you tonight is a request to purchase some IT equipment. I think I tried to explain the reasoning why we're moving in this direction for these purchases. We have a number of obsolete computers that are located in the city council chamber, and also just to try to eventually move towards having meetings not be audio only for our city council meetings. I know our planning commission has done with both audio and video, and it's worked okay. But nonetheless, this request is to be able to also shore up some potential issues with risk. Use it with computers that might be being used by council members and staff that are remoting into these meetings. So all that being said, our goal is to purchase 5 new computers for the city council. These will be laptop computers that you could use at home when participating in city council meetings. And then eventually we will be returning to the council chambers to meet in person someday, and you will be able to bring those with you when you come to the city council meeting, and then log on here and work from those same computers. For staff, there's four of us here that have Elite Desk computers on our desktops currently. It sounded like a great idea, and they were back in before the pandemic hit. But once the pandemic hit, these computers are about the size of a small book. They don't really have many bells and whistles on them, and they have no audio capability except through a USB port, and they have no video capabilities at all. So we can repurpose these and give them off to the public works area where they'll be able to use them, because they don't do a lot of video conferencing. We will buy a couple of webcams for them so they can participate in their training using these computers. And then for the staff members that are listed in the report, we will be able to have a laptop and a docking station that we will be able to use in multiple ways. When here at work, we could take them home and work remotely, since we're still doing that. And then on the night of council meetings, we'll be able to take those same laptops, take it out of the docking station, bring it into the council chambers, and then use it there as well. This was what we were doing before we went to this Elite Desk computer that was sort of skinny down as far as its utilities. But now during the pandemic, we're finding that that's not working quite as well. So I have all that information listed for you. It's a total cost of $16,700 and some odd dollars, and that would move us forward in trying to tackle these issues. And as I mentioned in my report, we would like to use the CARES funding for these IT purposes, since it's directly as a result of dealing with the pandemic. So I will stand for any questions on this topic.
Thank you, Mr. Baroni. Council, anybody have questions or comments for Mr. Baroni?
This is John. I have a couple. Mike, what's the battery life on these?
On the laptops?
Yes.
I think they're like most laptops. They're obviously going to be newer. They're not going to be an old laptop. It's going to be a new laptop. But we have electrical outlets in the council chambers. So when we do move towards a laptop situation, if we are back in person meeting, you can certainly bring the adapter, the AC adapter, with you and plug in. But generally, a laptop will last a few hours at least, depending on, if I'm sure you're not gaming in the council chambers, but, I think the more high-end use you have of it, the quicker it drops the battery. But I think at least a few hours, 3 or 4 hours. I think it would get us through most council meetings, but we do have the opportunity to plug in.
That was the question, and that was, I guess, what I was getting at is not needing to crawl underneath the counter there to plug them in. Because from personal experience, the one I have at home, which is an older one, and I knew I would not be using it mobily, so I didn't upgrade it to get the more expensive battery, and it doesn't last very long. So
Sure.
that was the question. Also, it seems that the reason, in my understanding, the desktop that I'm using at home right now, one, it doesn't have video or mic, which based on being on Frontier wouldn't work anyway. I have Windows 10, so can I continue to use my 21-inch screen here? Because if someone shares something or just for me to look through the packets, it's much easier to read.
That's certainly your call, council member. If you would like to not have a computer and just utilize what you have, that's certainly your call. I mean, I'm not going to make you take a computer from the city, but like I said, one of the concerns we had was the security issue and risk with using a non-Windows 10 computer. And if you have that covered, I think I would be fine not ordering one for you if that's your choice.
Well, if you obviously will probably want one for each of the positions in the council anyway, once we get back to the real world and come into the office, but it's just that I wouldn't need to use it at home because I do have Windows 10.
Okay. Would that need change though if we do come back and start meeting in person, let's say September, October? Would you need it then?
Yes.
Okay, so it wouldn't be like take me off the list forever. It's just a delay in the purchase of that.
Well, right. However you wanted to call that, but that's just what I wanted to clarify. Is being I have Windows 10 on, as I sit here today, I don't see then that we have a security issue.
Okay. I have no problem with that. We can certainly ramp that up. I think I would ask for the approval to spend those funds tonight and just delay the actual purchase for you for a future date, but I wouldn't want to have to come back for reauthorization is what I'm saying.
No, that's a problem. Thank you.
Yep.
Like, wouldn't it be better just to buy all the computers now and then whenever Mr. Trumperlin needs it, it would be available? I don't know if you get a better price if you buy them together versus if you just bought them on a single basis.
I don't think we got any volume pricing on this, Mayor and Council. I know when we did upgrade computers last time a few years ago, there was a built-in discount, but I forget the tipping point. I want to say it's 15 or 20, somewhere in that range, because I know we got it, and I think we bought 21, so back then.
All right.
So I don't, it wouldn't make any difference financially to it's okay to wait is bottom line.
Okay, thank you. Other council members, Kathleen Refkin?
Just one stemming off of John's. These new laptops have the HDMI hookup so we can attach additional monitors while we're at home?
I think most of them come, Councilmember Refkin, I think they mostly do come with HDMI, but I will verify that they do before purchasing.
Because
it's nice to
I've
be
got
able
my laptop, but then I've got more screens hooked up here, so.
Yeah, and that's exactly what city staff does. We have screens. We don't work off the laptop screen. We just drop it in the docking station and then work off the larger monitors. But in the council chambers, we'd work off the laptop monitor, obviously. So, but I can understand your question.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Ms. McGregor?
Yeah, no questions.
All right. And Pam? Ms. Mortensen?
Just one quick question. We're using, or you're going to get approval here to use the COVID relief funds for the purchase of these.
Correct.
Could we start a running log of what we're spending that COVID relief funds on, just so that, when we're dwindling down on this money that we received, it's nice to look back when we, where did we spend all that money, just to see a log where all that money kind of was, where it was all placed.
Mayor and Council, that's a good question. I don't believe, unless we bought since the end of calendar year 2020, I don't believe we spent anything close to this amount of dollars on anything. The only thing I think we may have bought could have been additional masks or any other sort of hand sanitizer, which would all be pretty minimal. And once we do purchase those, we do record those. As you saw, as we were wrapping up the CARES issue late last year, we kind of gave you a running total of where we are. So this, I did confirm this with Mr. Grimm. This 513,160 basically told me it's from last December. So I don't think we spent anything, if very minor dollars, if anything. But we will certainly, obviously, put this purchase in there and apply it towards the funding that remains. Because I know I heard council say, as Mr. Grimm was wrapping up his finance stuff, that sounds like people want to start talking about how to spend those CARES dollars. So it makes sense to make sure that our running tally on the balance is accurate. So.
Yep, and I'd like to, I'm sorry, Brian, just, not even just a running tally, but documented, as we go, what did this money go for? Because,
Right.
Money goes fast, and and we can't always remember where these, not the littlest money, but, this is a big amount, so this would be a good thing to put on there. So, thank you.
And ultimately, if I can just jump in for a second, and I think I went over this with Mike last week too. I mean, we filed our last report with the CARES dollars back in November of 2020, and we had council approve. Basically, the 513,160 went to eligible police payroll reimbursements costs, and I know we had several meetings on that last year. So the money, we just went over that, the general fund financial report. The money is basically in the general fund right now, and if it's up to council as far as how they want to allocate it out. And I think, as was discussed earlier, I think everyone has thoughts on how to spend it. But basically, there's no more CARES reporting we have to do with the state for tracking this money or where it went. I mean, it's all been reported to the state and stuff. Now it's just how city council wants to allocate and spend basically the money in our fund balance.
Thank you, Brian, for that FYI. Thanks. Okay. All right. That should wrap it up. Anybody have any more questions or comments? Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion to approve and approve the $16,707.92 for the purchase of IT equipment as presented in our packet.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Mortensen. Is there a second?
This is John. I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Chumperland. So Ms. Mortensen made a motion and Mr. Chumperland seconded that. All those in favor will signify with aye. I vote aye. Lisa Whalen. Ms. Mortensen?
Aye.
Mr. Chumperland?
Aye.
Ms. Refkin?
Aye.
And Ms. McGregor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Motion passes 5-0. That concludes that item. So we'll move on to our next business item, and that's the discussion of our pumps for lift station number 12. Is that Mike or Gary?
It's going to be Gary. We think he's connected. You on,
Can you
Gary?
hear me?
Yep, we can hear
Can you
you.
hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. Thursday, February 25th, our lift station 12, which is located on Halsted Avenue by the boat launch, our pump number 2 suffered what we're calling a catastrophic fail. The impeller bolt holding it on broke off, causing it to slip down the shaft, and it sat on top of the volute in there. And as it was spinning, wore through the volute, wore through the impeller, and also took out the main drive shaft from the motor. Not a good situation. All the stations that we have 2 pumps, basically for this purpose, and they run, pump 1 would run first, pump 2 would run second, and they're both there if they have to pump together if there's a deluge of sewage for some reason. So we are relying on 1 pump right now. We just got confirmation that we can get a loaner pump from one of our older vendors that used to do our lift station inspections, which we're doing in-house now. So we will be getting that hopefully tomorrow. It's not quite the same size, but it'll get us by until we can get these pumps. This lift station it was originally installed in 1972. It was modified in 2005 and received new panels, or a new control panel at that time. The pumps that are currently in use were installed in May of 2002. So the city, pretty much got their money's worth out of these pumps. We did request quotes from 2 different suppliers. The problem with that we have found out now here, and I was not privy to this, I did not realize, but pump manufacturers, one vendor that they sell to per area. So we like Flight pumps, which are top of the line, but the issue is there's only one company that sells them, and that company, Electric Pump, sent us their bid back in, and we also quoted out ABS pumps, just as good. We do have a lot of ABS pumps out there too. They're probably the second best. The issue that we are having here is with this lift station being so old, we also asked for pricing on replacing the exit elbows, the interior piping, as well as the valves and the check valves inside. This has not been touched since 1972. The issue that we're worried about is with these pumps being ductile iron, as that sewage is pumping through, it's not only pumping water and sewage, but it's pumping, any debris that's coming in, abrasives, and I'm sure it's wearing through on those 2 elbows. As it comes out of the pump, it makes a direct 90 upward, goes up about 5-6 feet, and then makes another direct 90 out to the valve pit, through the valve, the isolation valves, and then out through the force main. What the issue that we're having here too is we want to kind of isolate the pump to try to check some theories, and being that these valves are that old, we can't get the isolation valves to close completely to get that's what we needed. It's just a curse from being that old. So what we did ask for is replacement of both these valves and the check valves along with the interior piping. Since the pumps and stuff are going to be pulled out and have to have all the floats removed, we'll have to remove, everything's got to come out. So the pumps, the guide rails, the power cords, all the floats, pretty much the lift station's empty, so it'd be a prime time to do this. We are not real happy with the numbers that came in, especially with both of them. We were expecting a little bit lower. So I was hoping to have before you a resolution to purchase these, but the lead time is 6 to 12 weeks. I just found out from the other supplier here, Minnesota Pump Works, they can get them in 2 weeks. They are in, there is like 12 in the nation that they could get here, which is a good thing. But I do want to talk with WSB, their director of water, wastewater, Greg Johnson, who is way more knowledgeable than we are in this stuff, to find out exactly what is in these bids that they gave us, because we're not exactly certain. Do we need all this stuff? What do we need? Stuff. So before we make a huge purchase, we just want to clarify some stuff, talk to both suppliers, say this is what we're looking for, come out, reevaluate, redo this, and make sure that we are getting the most bang for our buck. I'm kind of a tightwad, so I kind of watch the money. So we do have an allocation in the 602 sewer operating fund. It's under the line item of lift station pump replacement as needed. Kind of set up for this in emergency situations. We have a $30,000 price tag set there. As you can see, we're a little bit above that, so we're kind of hoping maybe they can adjust. If not, it's not a big overkill, but the line item is added just for this. So we are hoping that we can get them once we get more information from Greg Johnson at WSB, that we can contact the vendors, let them know what we're exactly looking for instead of trying to rush this thing through and getting stuff that we don't need, and getting a lot more precise quote and hopefully a lot better.
Thank you, Gary. I think that sounds like it makes a lot of sense. So especially since those pipes and elbows are what, 72, since 72, nearly 40, nearly 50 years old. So I'm sure you'll do the right thing. Council, any questions? I know that we're not into sewage treatment and that kind of thing, but if you have any questions at this time.
Hi, this is Ann, and Gary, I trust you on this whole thing, but is there any downside to getting that extra information, which will extend the time until it can be fixed?
No, I'm actually meeting with Greg tomorrow on the phone. We're going to have a phone conversation with him and a couple members of his staff to go over this. We want to try to get this done ASAP. I have informed both contractors what's going on. They're aware of it, and they will get people. They want to get some personnel out here to do a little more measuring, get everything situated. Once we figure out what's on these bids and what's there, to make sure that we're getting everything that we need and not extra.
Okay, okay.
So kind of piggybacking on what Ms. McGregor is saying, Gary, would it be helpful to authorize a certain amount of dollars so that you can move forward with this? I would hate for this to break down or one of the other pump not to be able to keep up, that kind of thing. Is that an option that we should be considering?
At this point, I'm pretty confident that the one pump is running fairly good. I mean, we've had good maintenance the last couple of years. The loaner pump that we're getting will work and satisfy it. So I'm confident by the time that this, I can, once we get the numbers and figure it out, I can tell them to order the pumps. If it is going to take a lot longer to get the pumps, then we're going to have to look at this. But I think we can do it. I mean, we have the CIP fund ready to go for it.
Okay.
That it's totally up to you what you guys want to do with it. I mean, like I say, there's $30,000 sitting in that line item. There's also, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, is there not extra money for some other lift station, quote unquote, repairs that we had to, like transducers? So I mean, we could, there is extra money in there, so we have enough to cover that in the CIP, but it was come out of that fund. So, but I'll leave it up to you if you want to authorize a certain amount of money that we, can't go over or whatever. But I hate to say, hey, it's going to be 35,000. Here you go, you can spend it, and it comes at 36.
Right.
I'm hoping to be around the $30,000 mark.
Yeah. Council, what do you think? I'll go to Pam first.
Well, I trust Gary's judgment on this as well, and if he feels confident that we're fine, and I do appreciate, Gary, that you're taking a step back and doing the additional research before making the purchase, with your gut feeling of we might be able to get what we really need at a better price. So I'm comfortable with giving a set amount, and if something does happen, but I'm just going with what Gary's saying. I think that's a good call.
Okay. Ann, any comments or thoughts?
No, I'm fine.
All right. And John?
I'm comfortable with Gary's philosophy and approach to this. I think it's wise, and I'm comfortable with him calling the shots on this.
Okay. So, and Kathleen?
I'm also comfortable with Gary's approach.
Okay. So my question then is, are you comfortable saying go ahead and spend the money and kind of bring it, because 30,000 was already approved in our 2021 budget. So I guess my question is, do we just want to kind of give him the go ahead, maybe to spend more if need be, just to get this done? I guess I feel comfortable knowing that Gary's going to do what he can to make it as reasonable as possible, but yet also making sure it's functional. I guess that's my question, I guess, to the council.
Let me ask a question on that. I would certainly, if 30 was already in the CIP for the budget, fine. Was that 30, Gary, it probably just identified as pump. Was the philosophy always that there'd be related piping that needed to be replaced, or really was the ballpark figure that was thrown as 25 to 30 just a pump cost?
Just for pump costs is what it was for originally. But when we started talking about this between myself and Mike Pollock and Carter Osley and stuff, talking about the age of the piping, that's when we started discussing that maybe we should look at replacing this. And I actually did add a line item for the following years coming up to add in not only pump replacement but any lift station piping upgrades too. We added some money in for that, just because this is all our lift stations that are in town, besides the new ones that are in new developments. I would say 1, 2, 3, 4. I think 14 or 15 of them were all built in 1972, 73, and 74. So we're looking at this is going to be taking place in other ones as we go. And like lift station number 3 that we're replacing for the project this year, those pumps were installed in 1993.
Mhm.
Lift stations 4 and 6, 1996. I mean, they're getting to the point where we can't get parts for them anymore, and we're on borrowed time. So you'll be seeing this coming through on the CIPs to have these pumps replaced. So it's just a matter of time and realigning the CIP, which Brian and I will go over, and we'll add in what we think is right and how we can make it work.
So this is maybe what I would suggest then. If you have to, if it's a timing issue for ordering these pumps, the 30,000 is already in the budget. The budget has already been approved. So I would say order the pumps and then just come back to the council and tell us how much is it going to cost to replace the piping and do the additional work that needs to be done. We can do that while the pumps are on order. Is that
And
Yeah,
maybe-
that's it's
I
a
was
1
just
to
gonna
2 week lead time for the one company, and they said 10 to 12 weeks for the other one. So we'll find out who's the best, not only best price, but who can deliver. And even if we say go ahead, we'll order it. We don't have to put any money down. I mean, we're a city entity. These guys have worked with us in the past. Both companies have worked in the past. They know our check's not going to bounce. So.
Well, I just don't want to delay it by 2 more weeks.
I was just going to jump in here quick, Madam Mayor and Council and Gary. When I pull up our budget documents that were adopted at the end of last year, I have 35,000 for lift station pump replacement in the rolling or the multi-year CIP. So I think I heard Gary say 30,000 a couple times. I think I see 35,000.
Okay, all right. So council, are you okay with that approach?
Yes. This is
Okay.
Ann.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, Pam?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So great job, Gary. Go forward, get the job done as soon as you can. All right.
Yep, and then I will bring back the final results then on the 15th.
Thank you. Thank you. I do not envy you doing this job, believe me. All right.
You guys are the ones that have to make the decision on the money, so my job's easy.
All right, thank you. So that concludes our business items. We'll move on to administrative items. Staff reports. Mr. Baroni.
Yes, I got a couple items, but before I get to my 2 items, I'm going to ask Chief Falls. I gave him a call this afternoon. Hope you got my voicemail message to give a short update on the drug task force luncheon.
Thank you. Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Baroni, Madam Mayor, members of council. As you're probably aware, last Thursday was our annual drug task force banquet. Obviously, this year it was a bit different due to the pandemic. So all of the drug task force staff was there, and the chiefs. There weren't a lot of elected officials there this year for obvious reasons, which are perfectly okay given the circumstances. But nonetheless, the banquet was a good update. There is new leadership. The county has a new sergeant in charge of the drug task force. I won't go too far into the details, but 2020 was a very good year for the task force, very busy. They set a number of records. And so I'll report those specific numbers to you when I give you the 2020 annual report update in a couple of weeks. I can include that. But at the banquet, they did recognize Officer Chad Griggs for his 4 years in the drug task force. He wasn't able to attend because he worked overnights the night before and then had to work again that night. So I accepted that award on his behalf and got that to him. So we certainly appreciate his time there. As you're probably aware, the drug task force is an investigative position. and it really requires a very high drive and self-motivated individual because it's a very busy, fast-paced position or assignment. So we're very happy that we have good staff, and Chad did a great job there. And now we have Officer Justin Thompson has replaced him in the task force. So this year is off to a good start as well. So that's all I have at this point.
Thank you, Chief. And also, please give Officer Griggs our congratulations. Well deserved. Thank him.
Will do.
Thanks. Okay, Mr. Baroni.
Yep, just a couple of items, Mayor, to share with council. So sometime probably late April or May, what I hope to have is a strategic planning session, maybe two if needed. And what we would like to do is potentially also meet in person and maybe during the day instead of having be an evening meeting as has been in previous years. I don't have any other information other than that, other than to give you a heads up that I'm interested in trying to do that. Both Allie and I are kind of the ones on staff that look at that and prepare the materials for council and staff to review. And we've just started that. So that's what I have for you on that topic. And then the other item I have, I'm going to do a quick screen share here. The topic that I'm going to want to talk about with you, let's see, there it is popped up, is liquor licensing. So last year, the pandemic basically hit us in March, and city council in every year, they'll approve liquor licenses. And the start of the liquor licensing process generally begins in April when Chris Lindquist sends out notifications. And then we have a public hearing and a meeting in May, and then they're good to go. The calendar year for liquor licensing generally starts on June 1st and goes 12 months around to the end of May. And so last year, a number of cities had no idea what they were doing as far as discounting liquor licensing fees for basically hospitality industry related things. We all know what kind of hit the hospitality industry has taken over the years. Maybe not golf courses as much, but maybe selling food and liquor at a golf course. As you can see, we have one golf course on our list. So the request I'm giving, a request I'm making, and it can be done any number of ways. It's going to be whatever you feel is potentially the right way. And I'm not asking for a decision tonight, but maybe just some feedback tonight to help guide staff. So these are the full price for our liquor license holders. Buddy Boy, which is along Highway 7, they pay a full on-sale liquor of $4,500. And the other two entities, WRA and Burl Oaks, pay a smaller amount. Some cities last year, as they got into the pandemic, discounted these hospitality industries a percent or a dollar amount. I'll leave that up to you on how you want to decide, but this would almost be kind of a retro understanding and lessening of their financial hit if you so desire to do so, to lower their liquor licenses for this calendar year. We're not quite out of the woods on the pandemic as yet, but we do know that it started last March and we're coming up on about a year now. So I'm interested in hearing some feedback from council members on what direction to go, and if you want to buy a third or a half or a certain dollar amount for each one, it doesn't matter to me. But I would like to get some direction so we can bring this back for your to have you review this and approve this at a future council meeting, probably the next council meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Brony. Just FYI, I don't know if everybody knows this. So WRA and the golf course both are nonprofits. So
Right.
just, I don't know that makes a difference. I just thought I'd mention that. So what are some of your thoughts? I know this is kind of, you haven't had a time to really digest it a lot. Anybody want to weigh in?
Hi, this is Ann. I'm just going to throw out an observation. Having been door knocking from like June through to the election, I can tell you that Buddy Boy Barbecue wasn't open a great deal. And so I can definitely see that they could use a discount on this liquor license. but I don't know what to say as far as an amount.
Yep. Yeah, I think a lot of the restaurants, including the golf course, have taken a big hit this year, obviously. Um, I know so I'll just kind of share with you some of the thoughts that I've heard from other communities. Some have said 50% reduction, and some have said, no cost. It kind of has been across the board. So the question is a 50% reduction for the WRA, that's not a big number. So um, you might want to say 50% or X number dollars, whichever is greater. Just as a thought. Um, Pam, anything? Any ideas?
I like entertaining this idea. I think, we don't have a lot of commercial or, food industry in our area in Minnetrista. So I think supporting those, they're great operations. So I definitely would go with, a 50% deduction. I don't know what else other council members feel.
Okay, Kathleen?
What is WRA?
Good question. It's the West Tonka Recreation Association, and they own the ball fields that are just to the
okay.
east of City Hall. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have
And they,
no problem at all doing a reduction. Whether we waive WRAs in Burl Oaks 100% and then do 50% for Buddy Boys, that's fine.
okay. All right. Anne, any thoughts?
As far as the actual amount, yeah, like I said, Buddy Boy was closed a great deal. So, 50 to 75% would be fine as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. All right. Um, and John?
Are these dollar amounts the full value that we pay to the state?
No, this comes to the city, correct, Mike?
But
I
is
believe
it a
so.
pass through? Pardon?
I'll let Chris Lindquist talk a little bit about that. I don't believe it's a pass-through. I believe that the state sets the rates, and I think that $4,500 is a set amount. I don't know how the other rates are set, but I'll let Chris, since he handles it every year, chime in on this.
Thanks, Mr. Brony. Madam Mayor, members of the council, the Sunday liquor license is a set amount. The club license is a set amount by the state. The on-sale malt liquor license is also set by the state. Excuse me, but the on-sale liquor license, that is fluctuating. So there's other communities, say, such as Coon Rapids, where their liquor license rate is close to like $9,000. I think it might be based on population, but that's not a set rate by the state.
So again, Ms. Lindquist, then, whatever they pay us, do we have to pay the state then, or do they have to pay the state separately?
They have to pay the state for their buyer's card, which is a $40. I believe it's $40. It's $20 or $40 buyer's card, and they pay the state that themselves. But as far as I know, Brian, we don't pay the state, do we? I mean, I've never okayed a check to be sent to the state.
Correct. Yeah, I think the revenue comes in. I've never seen a check go to the state like a pass through. I think this is just revenue the city collects.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And this would be for 21-22?
Correct.
Yeah, correct.
So last year they paid them they paid these full amounts last year, even though they were basically closed down, you might say.
Correct.
Correct. And we also spoke with the the owners and said that we would be talking with council, and there would be, that it would be a council decision if there was going to be a reduction for the next year, because we didn't know how long the pandemic was going to last last year. And the liquor licenses go from June 1st to May 31st. So we were last year, we were just getting into the pandemic when their liquor licenses were renewing. So we didn't have any idea of how long they were going to be without. So it was really hard to even do a prorated, because we didn't know how long it was going to be. And now that it's, we've come full circle, we're coming up to a year, we can kind of give them a reduction on this next year, if that is what the council so chooses, for them of loss of revenue for this last year.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and then Mayor and Council, that's not unusual for what happened in cities throughout. Nobody, as Ms. Lindquist mentioned, nobody really knew how long the pandemic was going to be and what impact it would have. So we were all kind of just trying to figure out what to do. And it's been all over the map as far as what cities ultimately decided to discount, if anything. So I'm going to piggyback on the mayor's idea. If you can pick whatever percentage, but if you wanted to pick 50% discount or $500 discount, whichever's more for your particular entity, you would be able to give WRA and Burl Oaks kind of a pass on paying this year, and then you would discount by whatever percentage you select, 50 or something different for Buddy Boy. So
here's my take. I've heard Kathleen mention she'd be fine with nothing, not charging Burl Oaks and WRA. And then Ann said maybe a 75% reduction for
sure.
Buddy Boy. And I'm fine with that. That would
I'm
mean
fine with whatever you come up with.
Buddy Boy would have a $1,125, so $1,125 bill versus the $4,500. Is everybody okay with that?
Yes, I am. This is Ann.
Okay, and Kathleen?
I am.
Okay, and Pam?
I am.
And John?
Yes.
All right, well, let's do that. 500, 175, and then Buddy Boy plays the 1,125. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yep,
And
so
then
75% off of Buddy Boy and then 0 for the other two entities.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, good. We'll bring something back in that regard.
Correct. And then also just keep in mind that we also have to do a public hearing on the liquor licensing. And they'll still have to go through the same process that they go through every year.
Yes.
And we will be doing the public hearing probably that first meeting in May.
Yep.
Right.
Sounds good. Yep. All right.
And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you for your input, and the council as well.
All right. Thank you. Any other administrative or staff reports?
Oh, yes, I do.
Don't believe
This
so.
is Ann.
No. Yep. Hold on, Ann. Mike, any other staff reports?
I don't believe so, Mayor.
All right. Okay. Ms. McGregor, you're on.
Thank you. I attended the Planning Commission meeting where they discussed the possible changes in wording for the solar farm ordinance. And it was quite interesting. The ordinance had stated 2,000 square feet, which they had based on the largest solar system in Minnetrista being 1,500 square feet, and then they added something to that to make it 2,000. And Laura Sandholm, the chairwoman, has solar panels on her barn or house, so she said she thought 3,000 would be better, and so that's what they landed on. And then they discussed, there's a statement that says if you have 2 front yards off of a frontage road, you need to use one of those yards in order to have your solar system. So they talked about that quite a bit and decided that basically you should pick the space that is the least obvious. And so that they felt that the wording was very confusing, and they were going to change that wording to something different.
Mhm.
And then a number of the group thought that there should be more detail. I had thought that too, but then they explained why they didn't want to do that, because they don't actually want to discourage people from pursuing solar structures. They just, and they're expected to change quite a bit over the next 5 to 10 years. So they wanted to keep it vague enough that people could come and get a special conditional permit. And that's it.
So, Anne, did they also discuss how much of the property can be covered? Because I know that was one of the issues, and kind of vague, one of the vague things about the current ordinance, because I think a lot of people thought you can cover up to 25% of your property, and then there were some issues regarding that wording. Did they talk about that at all?
I didn't make note of it, so I don't
Okay.
think so.
Madam
Okay.
Mayor and Council, that's what Ann just explained, is now the maximum size would be you can't have a solar array that takes up more than 3,000 square feet, no matter
Okay.
how big your property is, 40 acres, 50 acres, 60. The panels cannot take up more than 3,000 square feet of said property. Hardcover still is going to be at play for any smaller properties, residential and such, or your smaller ag properties. You'll still have your 25% percentage, but you still have the 3,000. It's going to be one or the other. So the two are going to dictate, but nothing could get over 3,000 square feet in size.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. And thanks, Ann, for attending. Okay, anything else, Ann?
No, that's it. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. So Kathleen, any reports?
Nope.
All right. And Pam?
Nothing to report.
All right. And John?
Yes, have attended since the last meeting 2 Pioneer Sarah Creek regular monthly meeting on Thursday the 18th. Basic thing out of there was we elected officials for 2021, which for chair, treasurer, and secretary remain the same. Vice chair now is Caitlin Cahill from Maple Plain. She replaced Mr. Fay, who cycled off the committee, off the council. And on the 25th, Thursday the 25th, there was a TAC meeting, Technical Advisory Committee meeting. City was represented by Nick from staff and by Laura Riscola from WSB. This TAC meeting, as it is about this time every year, is for any projects that cities have submitted to the watershed to be discussed and prioritized as to what probably can be worked on. And so out of this, as far as Minnetrista is concerned, there is nothing in the CIP scheduled for anything to touch on Minnetrista for 2021. The thing that was there that most know about was the alum treatment for South Whale Tail. That's been on the CIP list for a number of years, keeps getting moved back again, and I personally don't think it'll come up in 2022 either. Main reason for that is Rebecca has kind of moved ahead because there's some affiliated issues with the Shriners horse farm and drainage downstream that goes into Lake Rebecca. Also Dance Hall Creek, which is north of 55 and drains into Lake Sarah. It's got a large development going in, so there's resources going there. Also, Bowser Bureau of Soil and Water Resources has changed the requirements as to applying for alum treatments to get support, and so it's a longer process now to go. You just can't say you're going to do it and go ahead and do it. And obviously there aren't any numbers available for us to even discuss anyway as to what the city's involvement would be. So that's what took place on the TAC, and so that was what we covered in the last two meetings.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jumperlin. So I don't have anything to report. I know that the Personnel Committee will be meeting this coming week, I think it is. I have to look at my calendar just to talk about some more union contracts. So that's about it. So I think
Hey,
we can be,
Lisa? Oh,
yes,
I have one quick question. In the informational packet, it was we got information about Hennepin County spring tree sale. Is there some way we can let our people know that, our residents know that this is the first time Hennepin County is going to have a tree sale, and the trees are really reasonably priced. We did it before, but we have not done it since. I think we only did it 1 year. Is this being communicated to our residents?
Thank you,
I don't,
Councilmember Mortensen. This is Allie. Yes, it actually, Councilmember Chamberlain sent me the article about it, so it has been posted to our website, in our newsletter, and on Facebook.
Perfect.
good,
And
great.
just to clarify, Mayor and Council, this is not the similar to the 1 year where we got a grant and we pretty much gave away trees. This is the program that Hennepin County, I believe, does every year, or maybe not, but this is just private sale of trees from the county directly to residents. There's not a grant money or anything involved in this. This is just, and we put that on our Facebook, as Allie just mentioned. So, I mean, people, if they want to buy some trees, that's a good place, as you said, to buy them inexpensively. So.
All right, good.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Pam, for mentioning that. All right. All right, with that, we can then be adjourned if I have a motion.
This is Kathleen on
So
motion.
moved.
Thank you, Kathleen, and thank you, Pam, for seconding that. So a motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor will signify with aye. I vote aye. Ms. McGregor
Aye.
and Ms. Refkin,
Aye.
Mr. Trumperlin,
Aye.
Ms. Mortensen.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0, and we are adjourned. We will talk to you all in a couple of weeks.
Good night.